Alright, this LeetCode question is called binary tree level order traversal. It says given a binary tree, return the level order traversal of its nodes values, meaning from left to right, level by level. So for example, if we have this binary tree, which is 3, 9, 20, 15, 7, we'll return its level order traversal, which is pretty much what we just said. It's an array of arrays that goes 3, then 9, 20, and then 15, 7. Alright, so when I see binary tree level order traversal, I always think queue. And if you don't know what a queue is just a data structure where the first element that's added will be the first one to be removed. So let's say we've added A, B, C. Which one's going to be the first one to be removed? It'll be A. If we want to remove another one, it'll be B, and then C, and so on and so on. So how is a queue actually going to help us here? This is what we're going to do. Let's take a step back and let's see what we know so far. We know that we need an array of arrays. So this will represent the final array. All right, now what? What we need to do is every time we get to a new level, we're going to add all of the nodes in that level to the queue. So let's begin. We're at the first level, so we're going to add whatever is in that level to the queue. So we have the node with a value of 1. But we need to keep track of how many things are in that level. So we know that we just finished the first level and there's one element, so we have to keep that in mind, 1. Now what do we have to do? Seems a little strange, but we take out the next element to be removed from the queue. Now we check if this element has any children. It does. It has a left node and a right node, so we add its children to the queue. Also, we know that every row needs an array. So this row will need an array. The final step in this row is to add this element to our array. And now we're done with this row. How do we know we're done with this row? Because remember when we first got to this row, we said that we only had one element. So we've done what we needed to our one element, so now we can just add this row to the result. All right, so let's go to the next row. Remember the steps are: keep track of how many elements are in the row, remove the bottom element from the queue, see if it has children. If it does, you add those to the queue. Once you're done with that, you would move the element into an array. Repeat that step for all of the elements in the row. And then once you're done with the row, move that array, which we'll call like the row array, into the final result array. I know that sounds like a lot, but we've done it before, so we can just do it again. All right, so we know this row is going to need an array. We'll say this is that array. We take count of how many nodes are in the queue. That's 2 nodes, so we know we have to do something to 2 of them. We remove the element at the bottom of the queue. We check to see if it has children. Yes, it does. So you add whatever children it has. It has a left child and a right child. After you do that, you take the element and you put it in the row array. All right, so we knew we had 2 elements to start off with, and we just did what we needed to do with 1. So now we just have 1 more element. We remove it. We see if it has children. Does it have a left child? No. Does it have a right child? Yes. So we'll add that to the queue. All right, so we've done what we needed to do with this element. So we add it to the row array, and we're done with the row. How do we know that? Because at the very beginning of this row, we counted how many elements we needed to do our thing to. It was 2 elements, and we just did our thing to 2 elements. So now this row is done. So all we need to do is move it into the result array. All right, let's do this again. How many elements are there in the queue? 3. So that means this row has 3 elements. So let's do it. Create a row array. Take out the bottom element. Check if it has children. Does it have a left child? No. Does it have a right child? No. So we're done with this one. Add it to the row array. Next element, take it out. Does it have a left child? No. Does it have a right child? No. Add it to the row array. Finally, take this out. Does it have a left child? No. Does it have a right child? No. Add it to the row array. Now we know we're done with this row because at first we counted how many elements there were. There were 3, and we just did our thing to 3 elements. So now we just have to add this to the result array. So let me just make room. Take this, move it in here. And now we're done. How do we know we're done? Because our queue is now empty, and that's it. All right, let's get to the code. What LeetCode has given us is a function called level order, which accepts a root, and by root, they just mean the entire binary tree. All right, so what do we have to do? We know that we need to put our final result in an array, so we'll say let result equal an empty array. That'll look like this. But what if the binary tree they gave us is just empty? In that case, we'll just return an empty array. So that'll be if root equals null, we just return our result, which at this point is an empty array. We also know that we need a queue. There are several different ways we can make a queue. I have a video about making a more complicated queue, but for this video, we'll just use an array as a queue. So we'll just add things to the end of the array, and we'll remove them from the front. So we'll say let queue equal an empty array. And what's the first thing we have to do? We have to push in the root node. So we'll say queue.push root. That will add it to the end of our queue. That'll look like this. We'll say this is the queue, and we've just pushed in the root. All right, now let's start the fun part. We need an outer while loop that will continue until our queue is empty. So while queue length is greater than 0. All right, so what do we know about each row? We know that each row is itself an array. So we need that. We'll say let row equal an array. That'll look like this. Okay, and remember, we need to keep track of how many things are in the row so that we know when the row ends. So we'll say let row size equal queue.length. The row only has one element in it, so we know that we only need to do our thing to one element. All right, so we need another while loop. We'll say while row size is greater than 0. Just to be clear, this inner while loop builds up the elements inside of our row arrays, and the outer element basically keeps track of how many row arrays there are and pushes them into our final array. All right, so what do we say we need to do at this point? We need to take out the bottom element of our queue. So we'll say let current node equal queue.shift. In JavaScript, the method shift just removes the element at the very front of the queue. So that'll look like this. We're going to take this out of the queue. Now we're going to check if it has any children. If it does, we'll add the children to the queue. So we'll say if current node dot left doesn't equal null. So if it has a left child, what do we need to do? We have to add the left child to the queue. So queue.push current node dot left. Push just adds something to the end of the queue, and we have to check if it has a right child as well. So if current node dot right doesn't equal null. So if it has a right child, we just add the right child to our queue. So queue.push current node dot right. All right, let me just show us adding the children. It has a left child of 2, so we add that to the queue, and it has a right child of 3, so we add that. Now that we're done with our node, we've added its children to the queue. What we need to do is we have to push its value into the row array. That would be row.push current node.val. The current node has a value of 1, so we'll just add its value to the row array. After we're done that, we have to decrement the variable that keeps track of how many elements were in our queue at the beginning. So row size minus minus. And now we're back up to line 26. It says while row size is greater than 0. Well, our row size was 1 and we just decremented it. Now it's 0, so it's going to break out of this while loop, meaning we're done with our row. All right, so now that we're done with our row, we just need to push our row array into our result array. That would be result.push our row. That'll look like this. All right, so now we're done with that row. All right, so that's pretty much the end of the code. All the code there is left to write is to return our result array. But before doing that, let's just quickly walk through the rest of the code. So we're back to line 22. Does the queue have any elements in it? Yes, it does. So we're going to add a row array. We need to keep track of how many elements there are in the queue right now so that we know how many elements are in the row. So that would be 2 elements. Now we're in line 26. Our row size is 2, so we go into the while loop. We remove the bottom element. Then we check its children. Does it have any children? Yes, it has a left child. So we'll add the left child to the queue. And now that we're done checking that, we add that to the row. Now we do the same thing for the other element in the row. We remove it. We check if it has any left children. Yes, it does, the number 5, so we add that to the queue. Does it have any right children? No, it doesn't. So now we're done with the number 3, so we'll just add it to the row array. And now we're done with that row. And how do we know we're done? Because we started off with a row size of 2, and we've decremented that twice. So now all there's left to do is to push this into our result array. All right, and let's do it again. We add a row array. We remove the bottom element. We check if it has any left children. No, it doesn't. Does it have right children? No, it doesn't. So we just move it into our row array. Now we remove whatever's at the bottom of the queue, which is the number 5. Does it have any left children? No. Right children? No. So we add this to the row array. And now that we're done with the row, we add it to our result array. All right, now we're back up to line 22. Is the queue empty? Yes, it is. So now we're done. All there's left to do is to return our result array, which is our array of arrays. All right, let's see how we did. Let's run the code. Looks good. Let's submit. All right, so our solution was faster than about 77% of other JavaScript submissions. As usual, the code and written explanation are linked down below. If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. See you next time.